the steering and his brother now.
The next leg of the Formula 1 season takes us over for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and there's a lot of big news that has come out, and it's all coming from Jaguar, as they firstly announced that Jaguar have announced that Hulkenberg's new 2-year deal is now off, and that Hulkenberg will not race for Jaguar next season. This has all come from Hulkenberg's outburst on social media last week towards Jaguar employees, saying that they were lazy and terrible at their work. That was a PG version of what he said. Jaguar said this is absolutely unacceptable and they will not stand for this. If he believes that the team are in what they call lazy and are not going to do their work properly, then they don't want someone of that character in their team. And Hulkenberg was about to confirm a 2-year deal extension with Jaguar. Gone. They're not doing that, and he's not going to be with them for next season. Jaguar have confirmed that they now have 3 main targets that they're looking to try and sign for next season. The transfer centre will be back very, very soon, but we'll see if we can try and get any sources as to who Jaguar are up with. And finally, Ferrari and Charles Leclerc have confirmed that the website that was spoken about last week is a fake copy. Now, apparently the Ferrari's official website had removed Charles Leclerc from their site. However, it appeared that someone had managed to copy Ferrari's website and had removed Charles Leclerc from it. And of course, people saw this as their first search and got panicky about it. The website has been taken down and Charles Leclerc is on Ferrari's website as they try to fuel some speculation between Leclerc and Ferrari. All fake. Now as we go in towards the race news then for this weekend, and race simulations really confuse drivers and teams as to which strategy is actually faster. We've seen drivers struggling to make the Hypersofts work. We saw some make them work. We've seen drivers struggle to make all tyres work and some don't work. And they've tried many different setups, many different tyre pressures that they're allowed to use. And it seems on one stint the tyre works for them, and then the other stint that same tyre just doesn't work for them. It's very, very confusing, but it's very much open in the air as to what strategy is going to work. Some teams were trying a look and see if they could do a 1-stopper, some were trying the basic 2-stopper, some even had to go to the extremes with a 3-stopper, but no one truly knows what is the fastest strategy, which pays for a very interesting race here in Abu Dhabi. Red Bull were not as happy in the first sector as they first believed. Red Bull thought that they made a few minor aero upgrades on their front wing and they thought it might be able to help them in the first sector around here with the high-speed corners. It didn't actually pave that way. They were still unhappy with the front end and there was a little bit not working with the rear end as well. It was definitely hurting Norris more than Mason Wood coming out of that. And Ferrari have made a minor fuel consumption upgrade. They felt like they just had to overfuel their car a little bit and with the partnership with Shell, they've gone ahead and helped with that area to try and make sure that they can run into the higher engine modes for a little bit longer. But with that being said, let's get straight into it. It's round number 8. It's the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxy back here and welcome to another episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. Today we are here for round number 8, which is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and a track that notoriously I'm okay at. There's portions of the track where I can really excel, and then there are portions of the track, e.g. the first sector, where the AIs are just so much quicker than me. And we'll have to look into that. But if you guys end up enjoying today's episode, feel free to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet subscribed already. And we're going to crack on with it then. So our first lap was good enough for P7, but we went across the line and set a lap which was 0.8 of a second faster. And we set the fastest final sector of anybody, and that put us only 0.2 of a second shy of Lewis Hamilton, which was really impressive. And I thought, after we dropped down to P9 here, we're up by 0.4 of a second, so I was expecting to go a lot quicker. As we now go through the last corner, we lose a little bit of time in there, but we only lost about half a tenth after we gained it back up in the exit. And I thought a 3.5 of a second improvement would be good enough, but it really wasn't. It was only P6 on the grid for this race, and we lost out quite badly in the end there. But we're going to have a look at the starting grid now and see how it all lines up and where we actually got in the end. So Reece claims pole position for today's Grand Prix ahead of Sam then, who was second on the grid. It's Mason Wood then in front of Lewis Hamilton. Red Bull with a strong qualifying session in general. Lando Norris then qualifies in P5 and we end up then in P6 there, so a bit disappointing in the end with Devon Butler then in P7 ahead of Max Verstappen in the Jaguar car in P8. Charles Leclerc it gets P9 for Ferrari ahead of George Russell. That is the top 10, and let's see who's outside the top 10 then. So Noah James just misses out on the top 10 with P11, and then it's Hulkenberg in the other Jaguar then in P12. Daniel Ricciardo and Esteban Ocon line up P13 and P14 for Renault respectively. And then we've got Pierre Gasly qualifying very well for Ford at the moment in P15 with Bottas in P16. Pascal Wehrlein and Nico Rosberg P17 and 18 for Porsche. And then on the back row of the grid is going to be Lucas Weber with Carlos Sainz plumb last for Ford for today's Grand Prix. But as we have a look then at the strategy, it's going to be a two-stop race. First, we're going to be going on to the Hypersoft tyres to start the race off, and then two sets of Ultrasoft to finish off the race itself. So here we go then for the start of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We've got 5 red lights, and it is lights out. Here we go then to start the Grand Prix. It's a good start then from Reese off the front row of the grid there. Sam has to tuck in behind then as Mason Wood there gets a very nice start. We need to go into the back of Lewis Hamilton there, but it's a good start for us though. Already in front of Lando Norris then in the Red Bulls. We go through in towards the first sector here. Mason Wood and Hamilton side by side now through the S's as we go in towards the chicane now. Hamilton should hold that position and maintain P3, but Mason will give him a good run for his money. We're going to focus on this scrap now between 3rd and 4th places as we go super wide into the hairpin. We actually lost out to Lando Norris, but we're going to get such a better drive out of all of that that will be okay, as now as you can see Hamilton has managed to maintain B3, but Mason Wood will tuck himself into that slipstream and go over towards the outside line of the circuit as they go now down in towards the chicane. Norris is literally all over the back of me now as he tries to find his way past, and we have a look at that now. So Norris here desperate to get back past after we got him into the first corner, but it's not to be. Lando Norris has to settle for P6 as we maintain P5 in the races. Again, Hamilton and Mason Wood continue to scrap as Reese leads the Grand Prix from Sam, then it's Hamilton, then it's Wood, then it's ourselves having a look up the inside of Mason Wood into the chicane. We had a look there, it didn't work out for us though, so it stays with Mason Wood in P4, we're in P5, Norris then in P6 for Red Bull. So we've gained 1 place then on the opening phases of this lap as we now just circle our way on through and maintain track position. On to lap 3 of the Grand Prix now. DRS has now been enabled, and you can see here that we've managed to maintain a good pace in the early phases of the race compared to the likes of Hamilton and also Wood. And in fact, we're getting a lot closer to Mason than I thought that we would as we get the DRS now. You can see here the power that we've got on the slipstream working much better in our favour now. Which way is Wood going to go? We're going to have a look towards the inside line, but Wood just sort of moves his car over ever so slightly in the braking zone there, just to try and frighten and cover me off in a way. And it kind of worked because I didn't really want to go for it and smash my front wing. So I decided to hold back and wait for the second bite of DRS now to try and mount my attack here. And you can see here that in fact Hamilton is closing up slightly on Sam as we go in towards the triple chicane here. This is probably where I'm actually the quickest on circuit. So we get a very nice run through there. And now we're going to dive up the inside of Mason Wood, catch him off guard on that occasion. And he didn't manage to defend that position. And that's going to allow Lando Norris to have a little bit of a fight with him. And that puts him out of the way in terms of not trying to come back at me. And speaking of the 2 Red Bull cars, here comes Lando Norris now in the Red Bull to fly past Mason Wood. And that is a simple overtake there from Lando as he now goes through, but it's a bit of a lockup there from Lando Norris. So he made it stick initially, but a slight lockup and a little mistake there has cost him the opportunity to get past his teammate, and now all of a sudden he's got the Audi of Devon Butler behind him to worry about as they fly on through now. Let's have a look here. We've got more scraps though. We've got Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen going at it in towards the chicane now. Here they go. In goes Verstappen. In goes Charles Leclerc. Who's going to come out on top? Verstappen gets out on top against Charles Leclerc, and then we've got Russell, Noah James in there as well with, I believe, is one of the other Jaguar cars as well in there as we speed up from the start of the straight all the way down to the end of the straight. And we see there goes Noah James on the inside of Nico Hulkenberg. Crucially there, both these 2 men are on the ultra soft tyres, and their rivals in front who they're fighting with are on the hyper soft tyres, so they can go longer on this first stint than anybody else is going to be able to. So this might actually work out in their favour later on down the line, especially if everyone's going to keep scrapping as Verstappen there repasses Charles Leclerc. And this time now Verstappen has to defend against George Russell now as Russell is trying to make it. No, that's Devon Butler actually. Why did Butler come into all this? I thought Butler was on the back of the 2 Red Bulls, so Butler's had a bit of an issue somewhere here because he's dropping down the order. Although another man who is dropping down the order is Verstappen because he's just lost 2 places and all of that. There's one of the Red Bulls there. As Butler now is going to be under pressure here because he's not going to have the DRS on the second straight here. So Charles Leclerc is going to come flying on through. Verstappen wants to come back past as well. Leclerc makes the position up. Verstappen can't make the position stick, and Butler stays where he is. On to lap 6 of the Grand Prix now. Focusing on ourselves, so you can see that the pace is actually genuinely quite good. We're not too bad in terms of of overall matching pace between myself and Lewis Hamilton, but I decided to focus on what happened last season. Now, last season here at Abu Dhabi, I was in a slower car, and I was trying my best to defend against Sam. And Sam did a one-lap undercut on me, and he managed to gain 3, maybe even 4 seconds. So I thought to myself, I wonder if I can gain a similar amount of time if I did trigger the undercut. So I'm coming in a lap or so earlier than what I should be, but in the hope that I can actually get in front of Lewis Hamilton, maybe even in front of Sam as well. We'll have to see how the strategy pays out. Of course, it depends on the pace of those guys in front as well. Maybe I don't have as much pace as I originally thought around here, but I'm just thinking to myself, you know, the undercut worked very nicely for them last season. Let me try it this season as we now just come out in front of one of the Red Bulls there. I believe it's Mason Wood, but I could be wrong as we now are going on through. There's Reese, I believe, in front there. So Reese actually came in at the same lap as me. So my undercut attempt is not going to work on Reese because he's actually coming at the same time. So on that front, we're not going to get anything there, but the Red Bull behind is actually on the hyper soft tyres, so going a different way to what we are in this middle stint here. He's actually going to have the DRS here now, so we're going to have to defend towards the inside line here. That Red Bull has got his engine turned up to the max. He's going to really go for this one here. I think it's Lando Norris in the Red Bull. It is Lando Norris then, trying to have a little look here, but it's a second lockup from Lando Norris into that corner. He can't get the braking zone right there, and that's a little bit of a lifesaver for us because I couldn't afford to lose out to Lando Norris, especially if he's going a different way on strategies. We now look further forward here. It goes Reese now going down the inside of Carlos Sainz in the Ford. This massive queue of cars now who are all on completely different strategies here in Abu Dhabi. We said this in the race news at the start of the episode that the tyre strategy is going to be critical here because it's just so unpredictable. And here's another unpredictable strategy. Sam has rejoined in front of us. He's on hyper soft tyres though, so he's going a different way again to what we're doing. So McLaren switching the strategy slightly here as Reese now is attacking one of the Williams cars here, and now he's going to make this move stick quite easily for himself, I believe, as he goes around the outside of the first part of the chicane. He'll get the inside of the second bit of the chicane, covers off the inside line. Nice overtake there from Reese. Good stuff from him as we've got, I believe that's Ricardo, Hulkenberg, Ocon, one of the Williams cars, both Rosberg, Verline, Reese, the second Williams car, Sam in there as well. There's a lot of cars in this mixer of trains here, and here's Hulkenberg now, I believe, trying to defend against Esteban Ocon. Ocon, I think, has got the position. Ocon does take the position away from Hulkenberg. Reese now goes down the inside of Pascal Verline. Verline can't fend that one off. Unfortunately, that is a position lost for him as we now see we've got just a whole manner of cars. Sam has also got past the Williams in all of this as well. As for us, though, we're at the back of this entire train of cars, but I don't intend on staying on the back of it for very, very long, as we're now going to make our way through this entire queue of cars, and we go down the inside of Carlos Sainz quite nicely, and that is us overtaking him, and he tries to come back at me there, but a little bit of a slide there. What's crucial, though, is that's Lewis Hamilton there behind, so the undercut worked on Lewis Hamilton, so we are now, if we can just get through this traffic, in a net P3, which is big for us in this Grand Prix. Lucas Weber is now next on our hit list, and, he kind of just didn't really do anything there. He just let us through. Fair enough. We'll take that one as we now are going to try and close up onto the back of my teammate Sam now. So Sam stuck behind Verline and also Nico Rosberg, and we're going to try and take advantage of this. What's critical though is on the minimap there, you can see one of the cars is going through the hairpin, and if that car is on a one-stop strategy, which it looks like a Ferrari, and Noah James, remember, was on the ultra soft tyres at the start of this race, he could be in contention later on, as we're now trying to see if we can find our way past Sam. We do find our way past Sam, and also try and make a cheeky little overtake on Verline as well in there, so a beautiful double overtake in there, to not only pass my teammate, but to also get past Verline as well, as we now open up our DRS to try and close in onto the back of Reese here. Sam, though, is going to have DRS on the back of us. Verline is going to have DRS. Everyone's got DRS here. It's a massive train of just DRS here. Verline looks like he's more under pressure than anybody from Lucas Weber. Weber now tries to go around the outside of Pascal Verline. Verline will try and fend it off. Weber gives him a little bit of a nudge in there, but it doesn't work out, and Verline gets the position done. And Sam now, though, has got DRS on here, so he's going to go towards it to the inside line. We tried to cover it off, couldn't cover it enough, though. I have to brake really late here. May even clip the back of Pascal Verline, but we don't do that. But we just about fend off against Sam. I think he's still actually side by side in this occasion, but now as we go through in towards here, we've managed to stay in front of Sam, and that is crucial for our Grand Prix. But now we've got to run on Pascal Verline, and if they're going to trail brake, which I believe they are, we're going to try and go for it here, down inside of Pascal Verline, and lock up there from Reese, but we get Verline done, and that's crucial against Sam, because Sam there with the Hypersoft is now going to have to try and overtake Pascal Verline, or Nico Rosberg, sorry, before he gets to the back of us, as Reese here tries to go for it around the outside of Ocon into the sector last corner. That would be brave. I had to lift off the throttle ever so slightly there, but we now go around the outside of Ocon into the last corner and make that move stick on the Renault driver, as we're now saving our way through this. Feels a big lock up there from Nico Rosberg, but he makes it stick on Ocon, and Ocon there compromises himself. Rosberg is compromised as well. Sam says thank you very much in all of that and gets past him, but for us though, we're now hounding all over the back of Reese here in the Mercedes-Benz for what will be a net P1 in this Grand Prix if we can overtake him here. Sam now is up into P3 and is comfortable at this stage of the race. It's technically a battle for what is like 5th or 6th actually in total, but as we now go onto the straight here, we've got a fantastic run here against the Mercedes of Reese. This should be quite a simple overtake for us as we open up the DRS and just breeze past the Mercedes driver, and we're up into a net P1 now in this Grand Prix, but we've still got plenty of drivers who are doing different strategies to us who we need to take into consideration. Ricciardo and Bottas are in front, so we need to focus on them because they're on the ultra soft tyres, and then in front of that is one of the Jaguar cars, and then in front of that by a country mile is the other Ferrari. So in fact, that Ferrari of Noah James could well become a major threat to win this Grand Prix with a strategy masterclass. Who would have thought it from Ferrari? But he's way out in front. He's going to be coming in very, very soon, and we are still a long way back from him. It's a lap 11 of the Grand Prix. He'll be coming in the next 6 or 7 laps or so to get off those tyres, but we're now going to go down the inside of Bottas like we did earlier in the Grand Prix to Nico Rosberg, in fact on the previous lap. Now we've got Daniel Ricciardo to focus on, and I want to get past Daniel Ricciardo as quick as we possibly can, so let's try and make this one stick on the Renault driver. In towards the second to last corner now. Let's see if he's going to come into the pits or if he's going to stay out. He doesn't come into the pits, but he is going to make life a little bit difficult for us now, but we get a great run off the exit in the last corner. Now onto the start-finish straight here, just turning up my engine modes ever so slightly to give me a little bit of a better run in towards turn 1, down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo. Move is done and dusted. Hulkenberg is next on our hit list then for P2 in this Grand Prix, and then Noah James again really far ahead in P1. This is quite worrying now for us if we're going to make anything stick to this, but Bottas now fancies a run on Daniel Ricciardo. He's going to go for it actually on the Renault drive. I thought Reese there had a little run on Bottas, but not to be. Valtteri though goes down the inside there. We also saw that Hamilton got past what was it called? Sam. He did just get past him, but it didn't work out in the end there. Reese now here with the DRS though is going to absolutely breeze past Daniel Ricciardo. This isn't really going to be much of a fight. It's actually going to be quite simple for him. In fact, Hamilton there tries to have a look there. Ricciardo closed that one off quite deeply against him, and as you can see here, going in towards the chicane now, we're going on through. Reese makes his way through. Bottas is in front of Ricciardo, only just though. In fact, Ricciardo might have the DRS here to go and attack then as they go on through. Hamilton now is going to try and go towards the outside line. Bottas is on the inside line. Sam is also behind all this as well, so Sam's actually lost places in this entire scrap as they go on through now, and Lewis Hamilton there is going to get past. Reese though has passed both Ricciardo and also Bottas. Hamilton goes around the outside of Valtteri. He'll make that one stick. Should get the inside line now for this triple right-hander, sorry. And as they go on through, he does so, and that's him in front of Bottas. Now here comes Sam to try and attack Lewis Hamilton. So this is now when Ricciardo, Bottas, and everyone else has now made their stops, and we're going to try and see if we can push onwards. But there goes Sam now to make his way past Lewis Hamilton. Very comfortable overtake there. And again, on those hyper soft tyres, he's going to have to make something work in his favour. Otherwise, it's all going to go to pot for Sam, and he gets on with it straight away there. But Lewis Hamilton is going to have the DRS for a second time now on this second straight here, so he might just try and pressurize Sam. He's going to go for it now around the outside of Sam in towards the chicane now. Sam needs to really hold on to this position, and he does so. So there goes Hamilton dropping down into P3 in this Grand Prix. Now he's skipped a little bit further forward where Reese now is under pressure from Sam, and in fact Reese has got a little bit of front wing damage on the front left end plate there, and Sam will take full advantage of that. He says thank you very much, I'll have that position, and Reese there losing critical amounts of downforce in this race. But what's a bad thing for Sam is that Reese is now going to be in DRS detection zone, and he's probably going to absolutely breeze past Sam unless Sam was just behind him. No, he's not. So unfortunately for Sam, that work that he's done to get past Reese is going to have to wait a little bit longer because that Mercedes car is much quicker in a straight line, and he flies on through past. Oh, Sam making a little bit of contact with Reese on the entrance into the corner. Sam now, we're going to get a better run on the outside, and let's see if he has DRS this time around. He should do to help him out here, so he does have it. Let's see if he can try and make it stick. Hamilton though is coming through on the inside line here, and now Hamilton might just pressurize Reese in towards this corner. He doesn't, so Reese stays in front, and they're just losing time. That's us in the lead ahead, trying to pull away from this lot while they scrap it out. And then behind that is Noah James, and Noah has already made his one and only stop now in this Grand Prix. So Noah is one pit stop ahead of everyone in this Grand Prix now, and here he comes then around the outside of Sam now. His hyper soft tyres are going to get very, very worn. Noah's super soft tyres are just nice and fresh, and they're only going to get faster and faster as the race progresses onwards now. And Hamilton here is now trying to make an attack on Reese, and Reese really needs to let Hamilton through. If Hamilton's going to pressurize not only for a race win but get onto the back of me, then he's going to have to make it stick. He does so. Hamilton gets in front of Reese, and that is him now up into second place in the Grand Prix. And Reese is going to need a new front wing, so that's going to lose him a lot of time. But overall, they've all lost out compared to Noah James because Noah is right behind them as we now go on to lap 17 of the Grand Prix, and we're coming in now for our second stop of the Grand Prix, and we've got a lot to do now in this race. We really do. We have now got to try and hunt down Noah James. We're going to have 10 laps on ultra soft tyres to absolutely blitz it onto the back of the Ferrari because there he goes. That's Noah James now into what is a net P1 in this Grand Prix. It's a 2.7 second stop, and I believe Reese is coming in now, so we're going to be pretty much actually in clean air, believe it or not. We're going to have no one to trouble us as we now go on our hunt for Noah James. And now it's about what is that gap between Noah? Do we have the pace? We've got fresh and faster tyres versus Noah, so let the pursuit begin now. Let's have a look at that gap then. It's 10.4 seconds with 11 laps to go. We need to gain over a second a lap on Noah to win this Grand Prix. And on to lap 24 now of the Grand Prix. The hunt has been on, and we are now catching the Ferrari man, and we have done a great job here to get onto the back of Noah James. Now lap 25 of the Grand Prix. We've been setting very, very fast lap times now, and with 0.2 of a second in it now. Let's see if we can find our way past Noah. The gap to myself and Sam is 6.7 seconds. Sam also has got Hamilton behind him in all of that, so Sam now has to defend against Lewis Hamilton. We now are trying to attack Noah, but Noah gets a great run through the first sector all throughout this entire race weekend. My first sector pace was just extremely poor. They were able to carry so much more speed through the Essex section that I just couldn't actually handle it. So as we now go onto the straight here though, we've saved up a lot of ERS to make our move on Noah, but now as we go onto the straight here, I didn't think I was close enough to go for it, so I actually decided not to bother making my move up down this long straight. I thought to myself, well, if Noah's going to get reverse DRS, it might hamper me, so I'm just going to wait, be patient, a little bit of rear end slide there, but now we've got a better run than Noah, and now as we get to turn up the engine modes ever so slightly, rich and high fuel mixture should be enough to pass Noah James towards the outside line of the Ferrari car, and with just 3.5 laps to go, we take the lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and the two-stop strategy for us has paid off. For Noah James, of course, you can't fault his one-stop strategy. He started 11th. He's currently in second as we go on to the last lap then of this Grand Prix. The final stint was rather quiet from all of the drivers, but we now take the final corner and cross the start-finish line to win the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and victory is assured for us, and that was all down to getting through that traffic quicker than everybody else could have, and that is what paid dividends in this Grand Prix weekend for us. So we have a look now then at the race results to see how everything lined up. So we take the win then ahead of Noah James, and of course being 3.4 seconds clear at the end. Of course, we managed to make our two-stop strategy work. Noah's one-stop strategy worked very well in his favour. Lewis Hamilton finishes in P3 for Mercedes and manages to beat Sam at the end for that final podium spot. Charles Leclerc with P5 for Ferrari. Overall, a great day for Ferrari and well needed for them in general. Reese with a compromised P6. It could have been so much more had he not had the front wing damage. Maybe he would have beaten Sam, maybe Lewis Hamilton. He might have even got ahead of Noah. You just never know in this sport. Mason Wood finishes in P7 for Red Bull. That's a disappointing result considering he started on third place on the grid. It just didn't work out for him today. Devon Butler finishes in P8 for Audi. A good day all round for Jaguar, you could say, with Hulkenberg and Verstappen both picking up points. We haven't seen them in the points for the past few races. Looking at the second half of the table, George Russell finishes in P11 for Audi. A disappointing race, you could say, for him. Gasly again showing some fine performances for Ford. Started 15th but finishes in 12th. The two runners of Ricciardo and Ocon, 13th and 14th, exactly where they started, didn't make any places up. Lucas Weber finishes 15th for Williams, and a strong result again for him. Nico Rosberg in 16th place, ahead of Carlos Sainz and then Pascal Wehrlein. And the two drivers to DNF from today's Grand Prix was Valtteri Bottas and Lando Norris, and we were the driver that set the fastest lap in our hunt for Noah James with a 1 minute 34.319. Looking then at the Drivers' Championship then, and the gap is now 40 points between myself and Reese, and we're building a very comfortable lead now at the top of the championship ahead of my main rivals. Sam is on 98 points and just 4 points clear of Lewis Hamilton, so obviously that battle for P3 could prove to be quite critical as Hamilton and Sam seem to be in a little bit of a scrap of their own at the moment. Noah then is now up to 5th in the championship after his podium place today, ahead of the two Red Bulls of Wood and Norris. Then we have got Leclerc in 8th in the championship on 44 points. George Russell is then on 29 points, failing to score today. Max Verstappen moves back into the top half of the table with Jaguar securing himself on 29 points. And of course, the next round is the German Grand Prix. And then the Constructors' Championship then, so McLaren are on 255 points and are now 44 points clear of Mercedes-Benz. That is a 1-2 finish plus fastest lap for that 1-2 finish clear now of Mercedes. Ferrari break the 100-point barrier and jump back in front of Red Bull now in the fight for third in the championship with 101 points with Red Bull on 98. Renault didn't score today, so they stay on 50 points, allowing Jaguar and Audi to ever so slightly close that gap to Renault. Audi on 39 points, Jaguar on 38, with Ford, Porsche and Williams 12, 10 and 1 respectively. And now we're going to go into the post-race notebook and see what the teams and drivers had to say after today's Grand Prix. First things off is Noah James was absolutely gutted to finish in P2 after a late charge by Tom on his ultra-soft tyres gave him the race victory. Noah James, of course, started in 11th place and managed to work his way up to P2 thanks to a great race and a phenomenal podium and a great strategy to do a one-stop race from ultra-softs to super-softs and avoid all of the traffic. Jaguar were happy to be back into the points again after a few races out of the points with Nico Hulkenberg in 9th and Verstappen in P10. Ferrari were also a happy team this weekend and they had a much smoother weekend. We've seen some very odd and just poor weekends from Ferrari, of course. As last time round in Azerbaijan, we saw Leclerc fail to score any points and just have a disastrous weekend. Noah at least scored some points. In the weekend before that, in Singapore, we saw Ferrari both fail to score points and qualify on the back row. It's been a rough ride for Ferrari so far this season, but they got things back on track with 2nd and 5th here today. What really gathered interest from all of the spectators was the way that the strategy panned out for a lot of the teams. It wasn't just a 1-stop and a 2-stop that was the question on everyone's eyes. There were 3-stop strategies that took place in this as well. We saw the top 10 covered with people that did 1-stops, 2-stops and 3-stops. It was really, really fascinating, really interesting to see how everyone used the Hypersoft, Ultrasoft and Supersoft tyres to their advantage, and in the end it was clear that there wasn't really a decisive winner. You could say that overall Noah James had the best of the bunch, starting 11th and finishing in 2nd. But that is going to round it up then for this episode of the F1 Journey. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. Next time around, we are now into the European leg of this season and we're heading off to the Hockenheimring for the German Grand Prix. So I hope you guys could tune in and watch that race. But until then, I will see you next time. Take care all. Peace.